failure.
Let's do this.
Go!
Welcome to the long-awaited review of Metal Gear for the MSX, the game that birthed an entire genre of stealth action games. This game was directed by Hideo Kojima. Metal Gear was originally released in 1987, and it introduced us to the world of tactical espionage and, of course, the action and the legend himself, Solid Snake. This isn't your run-of-the-mill action game. This is where brains mattered more than brawn, and it is stated here, and it started here. Today, I'll be breaking down every aspect of this game and completing it and letting you know if it's worth your time. Let's dive into it. Alright, let's get started with this story. The story of Metal Gear takes place in the fictional South African stronghold of Outer Heaven, a fortress nation founded by a mercenary leader. You play as Solid Snake, a rookie operative of the Special Forces Unit Foxhound, sent on his first mission to infiltrate Outer Heaven. Your goal is to rescue your captured comrade Gray Fox and destroy the mysterious weapon known as the Metal Gear, a nuclear-armed walking tank capable of not launching strikes from any terrain. For a game from the late 80s, Metal Gear's story was revolutionary. It was more than a typical stop the bad guys plot. It introduced political intrigue, betrayal, and deeper themes about the dangers of unchecked military power. Even though the narrative is limited by the technology of the time, the seeds of Kojima's complex storytelling are present here, and the story escalates as you uncover more secrets within Outer Heaven. It's simple by today's standards, but then it was groundbreaking by yesteryear's standards. Yes, now with the gameplay. Metal Gear was a game changer because it introduced stealth-based gameplay. Instead of the usual shoot-'em-up mechanics of the time, as Solid Snake, you're vastly outnumbered and under-equipped, so running around guns a-blazing is not an option. Instead, you're encouraged to sneak past guards, avoid detection, and complete objectives without drawing too much attention to yourself. The game relies heavily on keycard access to move between areas, collecting equipment, and saving hostages. It introduced innovative mechanics like using items such as cigarettes to detect laser tripwires and cardboard boxes to hide from enemies. Now let's be honest, by today's standards, the gameplay can feel stiff and arcade, and controls are limited, and switching between items and keycards is annoying and clunky, especially when you're in the heat of the moment. But back in the day, this was an incredibly fresh concept, and the satisfaction of outsmarting enemies instead of just defeating them was new and exhilarating. First things first, I'm going to tell you I did play the updated version and not the MSX2 version with the updated character arts for each of the portraits for all of the characters. So I'm not going to lie and say I've played the old one, but I have seen the old ones. And a game on an MSX2, it does have the pixelated blocky look you'd expect from an 8-bit system. While not groundbreaking, the graphics were solid for the time. Character sprites are distinct and environments are detailed enough to convey different areas, like forests, warehouse, and prisons. Kojima did a great job for making each area feel distinct, even with the limitations on the MSX hardware that he had at the time. Sound-wise, you've got a soundtrack that matches the tense espionage atmosphere. The main theme is catchy, and the alert sound when you're spotted by the guard is forever iconic. The sound design, while basic, does its job of keeping the player at edge and immersed. And considering the limitations of the MSX, the production values were ahead of their time. The cinematic feel Kojima wanted to convey, even with limited dialogue and pixel art, still comes through. Beating an old game like this is no easy feat. First off, there's an issue of the game's lack of a modern save system. You need to rely on either the password system or the save system, depending on if you're playing the new version, in which even if you load the game, you could be starting chunks back. As you can imagine, this can get very tedious and annoying. The stealth mechanics, while innovative, are unforgiving. Enemies have precise patterns, and getting caught often means death or restarting section. Inventory management also adds difficulty. You have to consistently quickly switch between key cards, weapons, and items, which can slow you down in an intense moment. There's also a fair amount of trial and error. You'll be testing different paths, working out guard patterns, and experimenting with items. It's rewarding when you succeed, but the journey there can be frustrating, especially for modern players not used to these kind of challenges. So bonus. Let's talk about the bonus. You get the game's main villain being destroyed and you successfully destroying the titular Metal Gear. The reward is essential for accomplishment, especially if you've played the game without guides. There aren't many post-game bonuses unlockable. This is a updated version of an MXS game after all. But knowing you conquered the game that started it all, that's a real bonus. And especially if you completed the roots of the franchise of this game. I just got the platinum. I don't know about you guys. As such, Metal Gear pioneered the stealth genre. It's not without its problems. First, the keycard system is incredibly cumbersome. Each door requires a specific keycard and you often have to cycle through them while dodging enemies. It really slows down the pace, and it's something future entries vastly improved upon. The AI also can be a bit unfair at times, especially with enemy detection. There's little forgiveness if you're spotted, and the game can sometimes feel like it's working against you with its steep difficulty curve. Lastly, there's limited direction. The game doesn't always tell you where to go or what to do next, which can result in aimless wandering if you're not familiar in how older games work. But I know you're asking, big dog, what's the final verdict on Metal Gear for the MSX / the PS5 with which I played it? Well, Metal Gear is a legendary piece of gaming history for me. It's not perfect, and it hasn't aged as gracefully as some games from the same era, but its impact on the industry is undeniable. The stealth mechanics, the introduction of tactical espionage, and the groundwork for Metal Gear franchise all started here. For Defeationist, it's a rewarding journey to see where it all began. Sure, it's tough and a bit clunky by modern standards, but if you love the Metal Gear series or you want to see the origins of stealth gaming, Metal Gear on the MSX / PlayStation / whatever console you bought the collection with is worth a playthrough. For me, this is a game that actually changed the way I look at action games forever. It's where the thinking man's action game started, and that's worth celebrating for me. But like I said, there you have it, folks. My Defeationist review of Metal Gear for the MSX / PlayStation. If you haven't played this classic yet, I encourage you to give it a shot, whether through emulation or actually buying the collection, which I did on a PS5. If you're a fan of stealth games, you will not regret this purchase. You guys have a great rest of your day.